We're almost 10 years into business and we still get the same questions about whey protein. And a lot of people come in and say, I can't digest whey protein. And then we give them something, which is whey protein, and it turns out that they actually can digest it. So I wanted to go over the different types of whey protein, why things might be affecting your stomach, and what may be the best for you. It's important to know that whey protein is actually a spectrum, right? So not all whey protein is the same amount of protein per gram size. So for instance, you can have something as low as about 34% purity. And what that means is that of this entire scoop being filled, that 34% of this scoop is actually protein. And that means that the remainder of it, which is 66%, is fat and lactose, or milk sugar, okay? It'd be 34% purity, okay? This is kind of like the lowest end of the spectrum. This is pretty close to what would like dairy creamer would be, right? So you're really consuming that for the flavor. You're not consuming this for the protein quantity of it. However, believe it or not, a lot of companies actually still use this, and we'll talk about that in a minute. Now, standard whey protein concentrate is typically, actually the best whey protein concentrate is 80%, okay? So 80% of this, and they call that WPC 80, has an 80% purity. So only 20% of this scoop is fat and lactose. And again, this would be the highest quality whey protein concentrate. And this is actually whey protein concentrate as well, which just makes things that much more confusing. Is both of these products here can be listed as whey protein concentrate on a label. However, they're completely different. And unless it's disclosed, which 99% of companies aren't disclosing the type of whey protein concentrate they're using, you don't really know what's going inside the product. All right? This is the scale of whey protein concentrate. And obviously you can do, 40 through 75% as well, depending on, what the brands are buying or the manufacturers. And then on the other end of the scale, you have what we call whey protein isolate. Now, whey protein isolate is a minimum of 90% purity. And again, what that means is that almost the entire thing is protein. Now, the nice thing about whey protein isolate is most of the lactose, which is the milk sugar, is actually refined out. When you look at digestion and what causes the upset stomach and the gassiness and the bloating, a lot of times it's actually the lactose or the milk sugar, which is why a lot of people are lactose intolerant. So most whey protein isolates have the lactose refined out. So a lot of times when people come in and they go, oh, my stomach's really bothering me, I can't digest whey protein, they're actually taking something over here or something that may contain that. They're usually not taking something which is, high purity. It's also important to understand that there's something out there called a blend. So even though something is 100% whey protein, it doesn't mean that it's 100% whey protein isolate, okay? So 100% whey protein can be, 90% whey protein concentrate 34 and 10%, maybe whey protein isolate, right? So even though it has isolate in it, a product like this would actually be really low quality. So this is 100% whey protein. A product that only contained this would be 100% whey protein isolate, right? So that's just kind of the different wording that you can see on containers that can make things really confusing for the customer. Now, to kind of safeguard what you're buying, I always like to look at the protein to calorie ratio. So obviously, we know that 25 grams of protein should equal 100 calories, okay? So anything in addition to that is coming from fat, lactose, or any added products. So sometimes you'll see a little bit of maltodextrin in there, maybe for texture or for flavoring. But so 90% whey protein isolate, you're probably looking before flavoring at about 110 calories, okay? And that's a rough number, but you're looking at about 110 calories. So something like a blend like this, you're going to see a lot more calories, especially in the fat and the carbohydrate columns. Other things that can affect your stomach on a whey protein could be the quality of the actual raw ingredient. So just because you see something that is the leanest and cleanest, which is the whey protein isolate, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's the highest quality. You can buy a sirloin steak from maybe a really bad grocer, or you can get one at a very high-end restaurant. They're probably different qualities, but they're both labeled as sirloin steak. And that's how whey protein is too. And there's really not a lot of information for the consumer to figure out which whey protein has a high-quality source. And that also doesn't mean that if a brand has a really high-quality source, that they're consistently using it and not switching based on supply and demand and where they can get product. So there's not a lot of information available to the consumer to make sure that even though it's the leanest and cleanest, that it's a high quality product and that it's processed and made in the way that's preserving the most amount of micronutrients as well. Obviously, you're not taking a supplement just for the micronutrients, but higher quality product made, affect the body a little bit different, similar to meats and eggs and that kind of stuff. And on the flip side, let's say that you were buying a whey protein concentrate, just because it's not as pure as a whey protein isolate doesn't actually mean that it's a lesser quality product. All it means is that it's yielding a little bit more fat and lactose. So it may be made better, it may have a higher quality source. We have no idea, and that's why I've always said, I always thought it was kind of funky when people want to constantly rotate protein brands. To me, I treat protein powder very similar to how I would treat a meat. If I find a meat that digests well, it's a good value, and it fits my needs, it's not something that I switch up every time I go to the grocery store. So I think if you find a good quality protein, if you find something that's digesting well for you, and you feel like it's helping contribute to your goals, don't switch it. Maybe rotate flavors, but don't switch the actual product because you're kind of playing guessing games with digestion and your body. The other part of this is whey protein isolates tend to be the most expensive, right? Because they're the most refined and the highest demand, and you're getting, typically you're getting the most amount of protein per bottle, which is really what you're buying the product for. They tend to be the most expensive. Anything with concentrate in it tends to be a more value product, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. As long as you can digest it, and again, it's contributing towards your goals, you should always pick what the best value is, because this is something that you're not going to take one time and be done, but you're building this into your routine and you're taking it on a consistent basis. So those are all the things that you should be paying attention to when you're buying a whey protein product.